Welcome back, guys. Hope you're all well. Thank you for joining us. Today, me and Joe, we're going to be talking about strength training for golf, kind of in season versus off season, some misconceptions that are out there, trying to just provide a bit more clarity for you all and addressing any kind of old wives' tales that are out there, because there's tons with strength training. Joe?
Yeah, it's a good one. We both strength train.
We both do.
We both strength train. We recommend that all of our clients strength train. We recommend all golfers strength train. But I think some of the questions we get are, how much is it going to affect my golf? Like, not even for the benefit, but like, how much is it going to be a detriment to my golf? Maybe in terms of, am I going to be sore? Am I going to be stiff? Is it going to make me stiff? So they're all topics we'll cover today. Also, like, does it have to be an intense gym strength training program, or is there something you can do at home? Is there, there's plenty of other ways to add resistance to your body and different bits. So hopefully we'll give people a bit of an overview today on what we mean by strength training, what we mean by resistance training, and hopefully some of the benefits that people can expect from doing this type of training.
Yeah, great.
So what would you say, Sam, if you were to list a couple of the possible benefits? Like, let's fire off with why people should actually listen to this and why people should consider that strength training is a reason. What's one of the big reasons? Why should we
strength train? Well, right, so typically from the age of 40, males lose, I think it's about 3% of your strength per year. That doubles at 50, doubles again at 60. That's without doing anything. So it is a very much case of kind of use it or you lose it. Obviously, as golfers, none of us want to be out on the course feeling like we're hitting it less and less and less and less.
Nope.
One of the main benefits of strength training is that you're going to have a resilient body. One, to kind of play as much golf as you want, and that's kind of where I'd like to lead with clients. Yes, distance is a massive seller, and me and you have both had it through the years of working with clients who wanting to increase their distance. Getting stronger is going to help with that. My main one is, right, if you want to be physically available to practice and play as much as you want, you've got to be doing some strength training onto your body just to provide that structure, because the golf swing is damaging. It's a hard physical exertion. If you're not doing anything to support it, then you're just going to get injured.
Oh, I felt like you needed to get that off your chest. That's been sat there for a while. That's been sat there a while. I think also, kind of what you're getting onto it kind of there, and I think this is a good way of getting people on board, is instead of saying we do strength training to get stronger, we do strength training to not get weaker.
Absolutely.
Basically, like, if we don't strength train, we get weak.
Yeah.
So when you say to someone, do you want to be weak? No. If you say to someone, do you want to be stronger? They're kind of like, well, that has different thoughts in their mind, right? So yeah, I like that, like preserving strength, preserving muscle mass as we age and as we decline, or when we get injured, is fundamental to obviously keep on playing, and obviously to keep on playing at a top level. Yeah. So how different is, when we talk about strength training, how different is strength training in general? So like, let's say, for example, we have both in the past worked with the general public. What is the difference between strength training for the general public compared to strength training for golf?
I'm going to put my neck on the line and say absolutely nothing. Strength training is strength training. It doesn't need to... I told you this the other day. I had one of my pros sent me a video from one of his coaches out in America, and he has his clients swinging barbells like a golf club. Tons of benefits we can get from that. That's sarcastic, by the way, guys. Please don't do that. Strength training is strength training. Like Joe said, that can be facilitated many different ways through resistance bands. It doesn't need to be big barbells on your back, slamming it up and down, grunting different things, but strength training is strength training. You typically want to look at your 4 compound exercises, so squat, deadlift, overhead press, chest press. If you're looking for a strength program, stick to those, build something around it, chuck some accessories in that you like around those. You can't really go too much wrong. As a real kind of simplistic view, without getting deep into different programming techniques and things, base your training around your compounds if you're looking to get stronger.
Just to cover on that, the sarcasm was around that's a benefit. That it actually did happen. That someone was swinging a barbell for for fitness. Yeah.
For fitness. And what's worrying is that I've had golfers since then who have seen the videos messaging me saying, is this useful? Should I incorporate this into my training?
Yeah, if you want to get hurt,
Yeah.
it's a great way. If you want to have like zero benefit, it's a great way.
If you want to waste your time
If
in
you
the
want to
gym,
waste your time, like
you look like an idiot in the gym, go for it.
yeah, it's perfect for that. Like, it depends what the goals are, right? Like, yeah, it's just ridiculous, right? And I think this is where we get, unfortunately, in every industry, not just in what we do, people want to stand out and show they're doing something different and see they're doing something unique because that's what gets eyeballs and that's what sells. Unfortunately, the truth is a little bit less sexy, and you're right. Like, basically, if you just get strong in some capacity, then that is going to be of benefit, right? You might have some kind of extra rotational need, maybe. Like, I wouldn't even go as far to say that's like guaranteed, but some kind of rotational element working in different planes could be of benefit. But if you're doing pretty good strength training programming, you are pretty much covering your bases. As I say to most people, if you're strong for a human, you're strong for golf. Like, that is a good way of thinking about it. So what considerations do we need to make if we are a golfer then? Obviously, we know now from this first 10 minutes, we just need to get strong. Okay. But how do we work that around what we're currently doing in the gym? Because obviously one of the downsides necessarily, or some people might see as a downside of going and doing heavy strength training, doing heavy work, is there's some soreness, there's some aching the next day, some stiffness the next day. Like, what considerations need to be taken if you are, for example, in the middle of a golf season and you're playing regularly, or you want to practice 3 or 4 times a week, and you know that going and doing a heavy leg session, for example, squats, deadlifts, whatever we mentioned, is going to make you ache? Like, how do we get around that problem? Because we are not just a member of the public that can go to work and suffer. We are athletes, albeit amateur athletes, we are athletes, and we still need to perform in our sport, right? Yeah,
so this is where we kind of get a bit more into the complexities of programming. So that, right, let's say we've got a golfer, we're mid-season, so we're on season. They've got a gym session the day before a tournament. We would have hoped by now we've built up some sort of resilience to training, and we've built up that use of the volume there. However, if you're talking just about strength training, it's generally not fatiguing. So if we're talking, say, 1 to 4 reps, yes, maybe off season we're doing 5-6 sets of that. On season, if we cut that down to 2-3 sets, 1 to 4 reps, so we're still keeping that kind of optimum strength, that max output, you are not going to fatigue with that. You're not going to feel stiff or tired the next day. However, that is saying that they have put in the work in the off season and they are used to those types of exercises. Soreness is never a good measurement for a workout. Guys, I want you to know that. Like, you shouldn't feel like you've left the gym, you're sore. That's a good sign. It generally isn't. We're going to be a little bit stiff, a little bit sore if we're changing programs, or if you're doing different exercises that you've maybe not done before. Typically, we shouldn't be leaving the gym after a strength training session the next day feeling sore. If you are, you're probably lifting a little bit too heavy, or you've just got to manage your volume a little bit and bring that down. Thoughts, Joe?
I think you're right. I think it depends on what the goal is, depends on what the time of year is. Like, say, for example, for me, I know that if I'm going to be playing golf, then I won't do as much volume, and I definitely won't do exercises that I know for me trigger some kind of soreness, right? But that's because I've got experience. I've been probably training for how many years, and I kind of understand my body a little bit better. So I know that if I go and do 10 sets of heavy squats, I'm going to ache the next day, right? So I'm probably not going to do that before I play or practice. But I know that I can probably go and do some kind of leg variation exercise that isn't going to make me ache, and that's still going to work on maintaining strength or building strength. So I think if you've got the experience, that helps. If you haven't got the experience, just starting with something and gradually building up from that is probably going to be the best bet. Like, typically what happens is someone says, I heard that strength training is good for golf. They've never strength trained. They go and do a crazy workout. They can't walk for a week. They play terrible, and then they're like, well, that hasn't helped. Forget that. I don't want to do that. Right, fine, I get that.
We used to see this loads in gym box with classes and new members. You'd have members sign up in the new year typically, not done any classes, join a CrossFit class, couldn't walk the next day, so they don't come to the gym for the next 2-3 weeks, then come back, repeat, do the same again. In reality, what would be actually much more beneficial, doing 15 minutes just till you're kind of at capacity, coming back doing that 2-3 times a week rather than getting so stiff and sore then you go and don't do it for 3 weeks. It's all about volume over time, guys. It's not about volume in those sessions. You've got to, and me and Joe are constantly pushing with clients, is look at the bigger picture. You're not going to achieve these goals in a week, in 6 weeks. We can make progress in 6 to 8 weeks. We're looking at the long picture, longevity. I was also going to say, typically, your question before about strength training in season. In season, we're not going to be looking at getting you stronger. In season, we're looking at maintaining that level so we don't drop off. So typically, we don't actually need maintenance. Is actually, if you're at maintenance and just looking to stay at that same strength, it's actually a really nice level to be at, and you don't need to apply too much volume there. But going back to what we said before, that applies that you have put the work on the off season and you're happy with your levels of strength.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person, right? Like if you've got a good athlete come to see you, like let's say for example now you had someone come and see you and say, look, I do a lot of strength training, I do this, that, whatever, and I'm heading into a season, you would manage that. If you've got someone who does nothing, there's probably an opportunity for them to get stronger quite quickly, just simply from the initial take up. But I think what's hard to get around to people is the idea that we're actually doing this stuff for them to hurt less in the future.
Yes.
So that's a hard process to go through, and they kind of feel a negative an initial negative effect from that. So I think managing that, like if you are going to start taking up new training and you're not used to it, or you're going to intensify your training, whatever it is, finding a way, or this is part of the battle that we have with people, finding a way for them to get going without that initial kind of shock. It's hard, right? Like you're starting doing something new, you're always going to have some kind of reaction. The same as if you haven't played golf for months and months and months, and you've got to play 18 holes, you ache the next day, or it's normal. But managing that is key. And I think sometimes explaining to people like what happens when you ache, like why you ache, is quite useful. So for anyone that doesn't know why you ache and what happens, basically you're creating micro tears in muscle, right? You train, you create little tears in the muscle, and it takes time for that muscle to repair and to grow and get back. The idea is that we do that over a repeated process, and then eventually we grow bigger and stronger each time, and we repeat, right? Yeah. We break down, we rebuild, we break down, we rebuild, and that's the process of getting stronger and getting bigger, right? And building muscle mass. The problem is we have to go through a breakdown process generally to build that, if you're going to try and train for size and strength. I'm waffling off on a tangent, but where Sam was getting onto, which I'll add on to, is you actually can get stronger without necessarily having that breakdown. Like it's a different process that goes on. So when we talk about going to the gym and getting bigger and stronger, there tends to be some kind of breakdown, rebuild process. If we just want to get stronger, we can do that with less breakdown, less fatigue, less micro tear, basically.
Your Olympic athletes, your guys who are cleaning, snatching, squatting, they will do that every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. A lot of the Ukrainian gold medalists train every day. They are squatting a couple 100 kilograms every single day. They're just managing volume. They're just not doing tons of it. Where we kind of potentially might get into a grey area is, right, if we're talking about adding muscle mass, then we're typically going from, so just breaking this down a little
We're about to get deep, by the way.
Yeah.
So like if you don't like getting deep, I can feel it coming.
Really simply, if we're just talking about rep ranges, okay? Let's say from reps 1 to 6.
So what's a rep?
One rep is one repetition of an exercise.
Yeah.
So one squat, one press up, one whatever you want, a row. Let's say 1 to 6 is typically in your strength building range, okay? 6 to, this is what's really interesting, up to probably about like 50 is hypertrophy. So that's what Joe's talking about, is ripping your muscles apart, creating those micro tears. They're typically bodybuilding, think Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're those rep ranges that they would use, okay? So 1 to 6 strength, anything that, and then potentially 25 to 50 as well. You've also got kind of muscular endurance, but we're not going to deep into that right now because we'll be here for hours and hours and hours. Strength training is going to create those micro tears. So you are going to add muscle mass, but you're not going to create as much mass as if you were just grabbing 2 5-kilogram dumbbells and just pumping 16 reps of a bicep curl. Essentially, that's going to create more metabolic change into the body and into the muscles. That potentially is going to make you a lot stiffer and a lot sorer the next day. Strength training, done correctly, shouldn't once you're used to it, make you too stiff and tight, which I think is going to bring me on to my next point. There's a massive misconception, and Joe's probably heard this as well, that strength training is going to make you less flexible. And obviously that's a massive thing us golfers are worried about. We're worried about our rotation, our hip rotation, shoulder mobility and things like that. For whatever reason, there's a big conception that strength training, adding some muscle mass, is going to make you more stiff. Joe?
It's generally because you don't imagine big, strong guys being mobile.
Yeah.
But if you watch an Olympic weightlifter, pretty mobile, right?
If you can,
pretty mobile.
If you can,
those guys are
mobility.
Yeah, they're pretty mobile. They can move. I think just to cover on that, like I think it's interesting when we use the word stiff, like as opposed to being like not flexible or immobile.
Yes.
Like after training, you are stiff, right? You will be stiff, right? You won't move as well as you did before that training from soreness, maybe parking the strength debate and hypertrophy debate aside, you will be a bit stiff after you've trained, right? Like that's normal. But stiff isn't the same as being immobile.
Agreed.
So stiffness can be eased with getting warm by moving things, right? Like that you're just in a state of stiffness, where mobility is more of like your capacity. I like to describe that as. And there's no way that strength training restricts your mobility. If anything, increases it. And there's a lot of evidence to say that strength training does increase your range of motion at joints.
Which we
when
kind
done
of
correctly.
touched upon the mobility.
Like we spoke about this in
the
100%. And this is where people get a little bit confused because they imagine putting on muscle is like restricting a frame.
Yeah, there's those videos out there with those bodybuilders that can't scratch their backs and things.
And they are immobile.
Yes.
Like, we're not saying that they're mobile. Like
this probably gets us onto another misconception. I want to go back to the mobility one in a second, but people think it's so easy to gain muscle mass.
Yeah, I don't want to lift because I don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens.
And typically with a lot of my female clients, they're like, God, I've never thought about doing resistance training because I feel like if I'm going to pick up a dumbbell, I'm gonna look like the She-Hulk or something like that.
The effort you
if
need to go
if it was that easy, every guy in the gym would be jacked.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, those bodybuilders, that's years and years and years of training.
And drugs.
There we go. You took the words out of my mouth. I was just about to say. That's all of the steroids in the world, all at once.
But also, even scaling that back to, your normal population, like to build a significant amount of strength and a significant amount of muscle mass, even naturally, is hard.
Yes.
Like, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of the other reasons why people can't be bothered, right? Like, or they go off it is because it's effort, right? It's harder than doing anything else, but you're right, like it's not easy to gain that amount of muscle, and people shouldn't be scared if they think that they're just going to suddenly gain a load of muscle. It's not going to happen. But I always say to people, if you just focus on getting strong and then just see what happens to your body as a result of that,
Absolutely.
just like make your body be able to do things that it can't currently do, and it will adapt, and it might look a little bit different.
Agree. Just going back to the kind of the stiffness thing, I just wanted to kind of clarify what we're saying. Strength training can make you less mobile if done incorrectly. So when we're talking about strength training, anytime you'll come in and see a good personal trainer, they will get you working through full range of motion. That's when strength training done properly can increase some mobility in your capacity through those extremities. So we're talking kind of squatting full range of motion, an overhead press that's really, your shoulders are moving in the correct planes, you're rowing so your shoulders can kind of be mobile. Every movement that you're doing is done to that full range of motion for your body. Doing a chest press as a partial and just going halfway up, halfway down and getting super strong there, your shoulders aren't going to move as well as they should do. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that, guys, that we're talking about working at full range of motion. Doing that, then you're not going to you shouldn't worry about getting stiffer.
I think
less mobile.
I 100% agree. Like one of the best ways to improve, like if you struggle with like arm overhead, like shoulder flexion, like if you can't reach right directly above your head, like doing full dead hang pull-ups is probably the best way to like improve your overhead mobility, right? Like there's so many benefits of strength training for your movement, and that's maybe we didn't even consider that for this podcast. So like actually strength training can improve mobility. Like that's another reason why it's a benefit to golfers or to anyone who lives or moves or walks, right? Like that's a huge benefit to you. That's I didn't even think of that. There you go. There's an extra one. there's an extra one. So let's talk a little bit about what people can expect to see in their golf performance from picking up strength. Like I try and use always multifactorial. Like I try and say to you, yes, it's going to help your golf, but also it's going to help you be a better human, and it's going to make you healthier, and it's going to make you look better and feel better and be health. Like, you know, it's going to improve your health parameters. It's going to avoid, you know, your diabetes risk, like all of this stuff. But if we do talk specifically about golf, like what people could potentially see in their golf game in general, like golf game, not just golf swing, in their golf game in general, if they got stronger, what can people see from as a benefit of being strong?
Well, typically it's kind of how we open up the podcast with, you're just going to have an increased resilience to injury. If your ligaments, tendons, as well as Joe's just said there, with kind of general population, a massive benefit of strength training, and I have this with all my older clientele, is increased bone density. So your bones are going to be stronger. So that generally what we're saying is, if you're doing some form of strength training, you're going to be more resilient, and then you're going to be able to play as much golf as you physically want to. If you want to play day after day after day after day, you should be able to. Obviously, you're going to have a better capacity to potentially produce more force. So if we are talking a bit more about distance, you're going to, it's a bit more complex, called the anchoring effect, a bit more muscle mass, more strength. You're going to be able to create more force, more rotation through the spine, and that's going to send the golf ball further, which obviously a lot of us want as well.
Yeah, I think like interestingly, like we are, like, in our thoughts, we're quite evidence based, right? Like we quite like science, and we quite like listen studies, and unfortunately with golf, there's not a lot out there, right? No. There's not a lot of scientific research around strength and power and golf. Like it's limited as opposed to other sports. But some of the most basic studies that get done are 6 to 8 week training plans, generally not longer than that, because it's expensive to do studies for longer than that, people drop off, but some kind of 6 to 8 week training plan, and generally they measure club head speed or ball speed or distance, and pretty much every study that's been done like that has shown some kind of improvement in ball speed and club head speed or whatever. You know, let's take away all the limitations of possible with those studies. Like that's you know, we'll get deeper into that, but I'm sure in another podcast. But we're pretty much saying that you will swing the club faster, most likely, if you are stronger, or you have a greater potential to. You know, whether that's going to help you shoot lower scores is a separate debate, and we'll get onto another conversation about. But I think little things like even grip strength, right? Like grip strength is a big one. Like that's not considered, but like if you put a heavy club in the hands of someone who's not strong enough, their swing is gone. It slows down. So strength is a fundamental part of being able to actually handle loads and velocity through the swing. Like in my opinion, like if we gave you a heavy golf club to swing, we gave you a barbell to swing, your swing would be different, right? I think that's. Whereas if we gave you a speed stick to swing, not a speed stick, an alignment stick to swing, you'd be able to swing it a lot faster, and you'd swing, you know, you'd have zero restriction in the way that you move, right? All that is a heavier load relative to your strength. If you were freakishly strong, you could probably swing a barbell. You know, relatively, I don't know if you better hit a ball with it, but you'd just better swing it, right? So that there's a strength element to that. Agreed. So that is important. I also think you're right. I think in terms of resilience, to practice, to play, to be able to play often, removing the likelihood of picking up little injuries. I think that is our biggest thing as kind of golf fitness trainers, golf performance trainers. That is the thing we are in control of most with working with clients, is reducing injury. Yes, we can say we can potentially add distance. I would never promise it, because it's not the same with everyone. The thing that I would promise with working with us or working with any good coaches is that they will make you way less likely to get injured. Yeah, and I think for most people, being able to play for years and years and being able to play more is, it should be high on your agenda. If it's not high on your agenda, it should be, because luckily we play a game that can be played until you're, God knows how old, until you die. You play this game until you die. So there's no reason to I 100% agree. And if we're then going to think away from golf, like obviously we've got health benefits of being strong. As you said, like even to the point of getting really old, I don't know how, we'd like to know who our oldest listener will be. Oh, yeah. That would be interesting, because even to the point of reducing the likelihood of falls, or reducing the likelihood of being injured from a fall, or from that type of thing, is huge. Like strength training is one of the best associations to longevity and mobility later in life. So it's pretty cool.
The research for that is pumping out in the last 6 months has been absolutely incredible for strength training for your older populations. It's fantastic.
Yeah, for women especially as well.
Yeah. I'm really lucky to train. My oldest client is 86. Today I have my 79 turning 80-year-olds. They've been with me for a couple of years now. The one thing that they say is that every time they see their friends, they notice such a change in them, that their friends are deteriorating at such a quicker rate than them.
100%.
And they just attribute to that, not tough sessions. We're not getting them doing crazy lifts. They are just doing some strength training, some stability, some balance stuff as well, because like I said, falls is a massive one. But for them to kind of do an incline press where they can catch themselves on a wall, we get them doing that so they feel comfortable that if they do fall over, they've actually got the ability to stop themselves from breaking something. It's fantastic for your older populations.
It's basically make yourself harder to kill.
Yeah.
That's what I generally say. Like if you like being strong makes you harder to kill.
I really like that. I've never heard that before.
And if you're harder to kill, you can play black golf.
Yeah. Agreed.
And let's say, for example, we are currently training. We're in a relatively good, consistent routine.
Yep.
Let's say we're doing a mixture of, some strength work and some hypertrophy work and mixture of exercises, upper body, lower body, whatever. But we want to make our golf training or our training a little bit more golf specific. Okay. It's a question I get asked quite a lot.
Yeah.
How would you go about basically filling this desire for this person that they want to make feel like their training is being a little bit more golf specific, right? You covered this earlier in terms of actually if you just get strong, that's probably going to help you. But how would you potentially make this stuff a little bit more specific for the sport that they're going to play?
Really like that question. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll probably break down like what a session would look like for a trained golfer. So for someone that's been in the gym, kind of knows what they're doing. I would always start off with some sort of exercise that produces some sort of ground force reaction. So anything that's kind of pushing up off the floor, probably like a trap bar deadlift or a leg press, anything that's getting you strong from pushing off the floor. From there, I would probably get you to do something that's a bit more kind of rate of force development. So how quickly we've done a big heavy compound, so we've pushed the floor away. Now we want to kind of, which gets us a bit more into the speed side of stuff, which we are doing a different podcast on, guys. But this is kind of rate of force development. So probably like a weighted squat jump, something like that. That's really going to get your neurons, your muscles firing, your fast twitch muscles firing. So we do a ground force reaction. I'll do rate of force development, so something like a jump. And then probably spend some time doing some like high tension trunk exercises, making sure we're moving in kind of all different planes. So I do some funny side planks with clients, some kind of stability work, some anti-rotation work there, which is really going to help. And then we're probably getting into about 40 minutes if we're looking at an hour session. Some form of posterior work, so whether that's the lats or the traps or something like that I might look on with clients. There's in the trunk stuff, there might be a little bit of rotation, some pad off presses, some different things like that. Other than that, nothing looks like a golf swing. But that is what Rory will do. That is what that's what the professionals are doing. It's that type of exercise, guys. It doesn't need to be golfy at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think a couple of bits that often get missed in a typical, like in your like generic strength training plan would be maybe some kind of jumps. Yeah. Like I like some kind of like even like a 90-degree jump, even getting people to move a little bit different. Agreed. So I agree with that. Yeah, I'd say like a little bit of rotational work, like a little bit of anti-rotational work, like pal off work, or some kind of work that's going to take your spine and basically kind of like rotate and tilt at the same time. It's quite nice. But yeah, 100% agree. Like actually, you're probably covering 90% of it already. How do we just add the sugar on top to make it that way? Like something I get asked a lot is, even from like actual clients, they say, I saw this on Instagram. What do you think? And I was like, well, if you see something on Instagram that looks like it's a golf swing, like, I don't know, the golf swing's for the golf course, right? Or for the driving range. Like, I don't really see what benefit.
You're kind of doing. You're in a grey area where you're not getting better at golf and you're not getting stronger. So all you're kind of doing is wasting your time. And we've spoke about this in our previous episodes. Is right. We all have a limited amount of time to spend on the golf course or in the gym. It's about how can we refine that time to make it as efficient as possible to get to your goals as quickly as possible. Yeah. Making it look golfy is neither here nor there.
Yeah, I think like maybe if we give ourselves 30 seconds to consider what potential benefit there would be, maybe we give it a fair chance. But let's say, for example, some kind of golf swing move. I don't know. Maybe you're training some kind of movements. Maybe there's something with your coach that you're working on that can be done away from the golf club, away from the golf ball, that trains your body to move in a certain way. We're trying to retrain some kind of pattern there. I don't know, maybe, but I don't really understand where the resistance
side needs
would
to come
necessarily add to that.
Yeah.
I think again, it kind of gets out of my realm of like understanding golf tuition.Maybe like I've got a good understanding of golf tuition, but I'm not a golf coach, so maybe there is some benefit there, and I'd be keen to hear if there is some. I know there's a couple of good coaches that I know that work a lot on loading certain positions, like loading certain parts and creating tension in the golf swing in certain ways. But for me, that's golf technique practice. That shouldn't be programmed into your strength training, right? Like if you're strength training, go and do that with your practice, or have a separate section for that. I think you're right. I think you're neither working on the golf swing or on your strength.
If you're trying to improve both at the same time, it can't really be done.
Happy for my mind to be changed though, always.
Oh yeah, open to other things. Guys, if you want to send those videos of you swinging barbells and say that you've increased your strength, then
who knows?
The inboxes are open.
Who knows? I mean, it's a big jump from like a slightly weighted club to a barbell. I mean, we've not even found the middle ground there. We've got some weighted bars here that maybe we should swing, but they only weigh like 7 kilos.
But even that's like...
I have actually tried to swing that and I nearly broke my back.
Of course you have.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't recommend. Let's leave that one there. But yeah, if anyone's got any videos of people doing stupid stuff in the gym, send it to us and we'll give maybe we do like a reaction thing.
That'd be a good shout. We'll do a reaction thing.
Yeah. I've seen some bad ones. Okay, so anything we need to add for strength? Actually, this leads us on nicely to actually another bit I was going to say, which is like what should we really avoid. So I think making things look too golfy is something we should avoid. A question I get asked a lot, and I'd love to know your opinion on this. I don't know your opinion on this, so I'd like to hear it. Is cardio. We're talking about strength training, but we're talking about gym training in general. Like, I've got an opinion on.
Okay.
For example, I got asked by one of my pros, how much cardio should I do? And I gave him a very stern answer.
Last week, one of my pros asked me as well.
So I would like to know your answer. And I think he's probably going to listen to this and he's going to know I'm talking about him. But this bro hadn't played for 2 years, been away from the game for 2 years, and desperately needs practice. So my answer was pretty stern. But I want to know your answer.
All right, so it's going to go back to my favourite saying, which is it depends, right? If you are in England with a lot of people still carrying at the moment, so if you're carrying and you're getting to holes 12, 13 and you're out of puff and you feel like it's actually detrimental to your game, then yes, we maybe need to talk about some zone 2 cardio. We're not talking about long marathon runs or any kind of long distance stuff. Their zone 2 cardio is typically, without getting to the complexities of the heart rate, is a form of cardio you can do where you can still have a conversation, so you're not too out of breath. We might need to look at something like that, only if you feel like it's impacting your golf game. If you can play a full round of 18 and you can still chat and have a laugh with your mates and your golf game is fine, you're not kind of losing too much distance, then I'd say, guys, it's like we just said, we have a limited amount of time to practice, to be in the gym, to have a social life as well. Like, I would say no, we don't need to. Joe? Yeah,
I mean, like, is it
unless you absolutely? I personally, as a personal trainer, hate cardio. Don't really enjoy it. I love long walks, long treks. I'll put a weighted vest on and go for a long walk. I love that type of stuff. Long runs, anything like that, not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to answer the question backwards. I'm first of all going to give the reasons why it could be good.
Yep.
Because I'll run out of those quite quickly. One, there is some evidence to say that some kind of high intensity sprint work, high intensity like explosive cardio, let's call it, like how would best way to word it, but like explosive cardio, like, you know, short sprints, short intervals, has some kind of carry across into strength training. Okay. There's some evidence to show that is the case. I'm running out already. Health benefits, obviously, you know, if we want heart health and body health and whatever, and we're generally pretty inactive, then some kind of cardiovascular activity is going to be of good benefit. And I would never say to anyone, you know, don't do cardio. Like,
no, of course
like,
not.
It's obviously going to have some kind of benefit to your health, right? However, if, like, for example, the situation I was given before, if let's say if you're a pro golfer, or if you're, you know, an amateur golfer who takes their golf seriously, and you are short of time, and you maybe have a job, and you have a family, and you have practice, and you have a gym training program, if you're currently complaining that you don't have a lot of time to do things, but then you want to go out for a 40-minute run, then you know, your priorities are wrong.
In terms of what you're going to see progression,
100%,
carry over more into the golf course, you're going to see it more for strength training versus cardio.
100%.
Don't stop it if you absolutely love it. Going back to what you said, it's interesting, the kind of high octane sprinting stuff. Agreed, can absolutely be fantastic, and I think we'll kind of touch upon this more for the speed podcast we're going to do. But typically, I'd probably say 95% of the population don't have the right biomechanics to do sprint training.
100%. And also that same benefit, like, of sprint, you can get from lifting weights anyway. Like, it's kind of, you know, you're going to get the same benefit if you lift weights quick. Yeah. Like, or at some kind of intensity, or if you know, even better, you're short of time, stick a high intensity circuit together, a little bit of metcon, like, suddenly, you know, you're getting that bang for your buck, right? Like, that's a much better way of doing it. If you are that worried about cardio, go and swing kettlebells around for 20 minutes and that's going to boost your engine, right? I think, though, if you take health out of it completely, in my opinion, there's absolutely zero benefit to your golf.
Agreed.
Of doing cardio. Yeah. And the benefit is getting used to walking. Go out walking.
I mean, like,
if you go out and play golf, maybe.
Like I said, if you're getting out of path playing golf,
play more golf.
Do it more.
Play more golf.
You'll get better. You'll get fitter just by doing that.
Instead of going out and doing a run or whatever, go and stick a bag on your back and carry and walk around 9 holes, or go and, instead of chipping on the same spot for an hour, actually chip and walk around the ball. Like that's movement, right? Promoting movement, which has, funnily enough, loads of health benefits as well. Can't remember last time I did cardio. Couldn't tell you. I ran back to a tee once because I was out of bounds. That's about it.
I think I did a couple of sprint sessions after Christmas when I stepped on the scale and thought, God, shit.
Or in like 2010. We're not that we're anti-cardio, it's just we can't bother. I don't want to do cardio because I'm afraid that I'm just accidentally going to run a marathon and break world record. You don't
want to show the rest of them up.
Same with the strength training. So it's just worried I'm going to turn into Mo Farah if I start running. So we'll avoid cardio. But I just thought I'd add that on because I don't think we're going to do a whole podcast on cardio.
No.
So I thought that was an opportunity to throw that in there.
I like that.
But sorry for anyone who enjoys
other things to avoid with strength training. So Joe touched upon one there. I'm going to go back to what we said about making sure. So don't exercise. Don't do exercises that aren't full range of motion. Don't get really strong in certain parts of the movement because that is going to limit your mobility.
But again, like, everything's got its place, right? You'll probably program that at some point for people that are going to, like, high intense athletes working at higher end ranges of their strength. You probably might program some half reps for people. But the problem is, someone reads that on Instagram or reads it on the internet, like, half reps are good at breaking strength plateaus, and then they suddenly just start training half reps.
Like, quarter squat jumps are one of my favourite exercises for clients in power programs who are looking to get quicker.
But everything's got its place, right?
Yes, but that is after I've seen them, that they can execute a full squat keeping proper posture.
100%. It
has to be done in the right order. You can't jump ahead, guys, and just go to the extremities of training because you're going to hurt yourself and you're going to do more harm than good.
So basically, to recap, and we'll probably close it off here, if you don't do strength training, or even if you do, get strong in whatever way you can. Go and lift to some kind of capacity. Push yourself to as much as you want to push yourself and understand that the harder you push yourself, the more you're going to have some kind of reaction off the back of that. Get all of that stuff in place, then start to add a little bit of cream on top in terms of maybe a few little bit of rotational movements, a few jumps, a few different bits, and then maybe further down the line in 10 years time, when you start hitting real plateaus, not plateaus that perceived plateaus, like real strength plateaus, then maybe start adding some half reps and start being funky.
Agreed.
But until then, keep it simple.
Agreed. Keep it simple, guys. And what we're actually going to do, we will attach to the bottom of the podcast here a little link to a potential kind of 4-week strength training program that you guys can access. And then if you have any questions, just the drill. Just hit us up and we will get them answered.